Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I am so excited today because we have someone who is near and dear to my heart, Miss Betty Bergquist, with us today. Betty, I have watched your leadership for years and years and years from afar, and I've always been really, really impressed with you as a person and you as a leader. And so when I was thinking about, okay, who do I want to have on this show? What 21 experts do I really want to have on this show? My heart was calling to you. And it's because I so admire.
Really an awkward start. I'm embarrassed. But thank you. I should just say thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So I know so many people look up to you, and you've had just such a far impact and a far and wide reach in your leadership. So I want you to introduce yourself and let everybody who's listening know who you are and kind of a little bit about your background.
Okay, thanks. First of all, thank you seriously for the honor of being part of this program. I'm really excited about it. So hi, everybody. I'm Betty. I have a long career in the insurance business. I started, it's the only field I've ever worked in while I've held many different jobs. So I work for a large insurance company. My current role is a regional sales vice president. I started in claims years and years ago, which I think is really a cool place to start because it's frontline. I get to see how our customers react to the promises that we make. So it gave me a great experience, and I was in that role for about 4.5 years. I have moved several times with my family to different parts of the country. After claims, I went into sales. So I've been an agent, so I got to be on the kind of the opposite end of the spectrum where I was selling. And that's a really cool thing because I'm the one who got to make the promise that claims then fulfills. You can shorten me up if you want, but.
Great. No, you're awesome.
Okay, thanks. And then I got to be in several different levels of accountability from a sales leadership role. So kind of in an expansion opportunity as a frontline manager, and then in a more veteran environment, and then again at a higher level of accountability, all in the sales world while moving around geographically. So I got exposure to a lot of different things, which is really a cool opportunity. And then I made a move that took me to like a executive level role where I came back to the home office and ran our education team for several years. And that was a transition for me that was unique because I didn't come from that background so much, but I got a chance to lead that group. So I've been a leader in the education team now, the care centers, which also had accountability for receivables. So always staying pretty close to the customer in those roles. And then also some time in a leadership capacity with facilities and fleet and print in our company. And now kind of going back to where my heart is probably most drawn to, back into a sales leadership role.
Right.
So that's my
background. Yes. So that's a big background, right? A lot of different moves, a lot of different changes. From a leadership perspective, what does that do? What does that do for the customers and the employees and the people that you're leading for you to have that kind of a background?
Well, what I hope it does is that it allows me to pull my past experiences together and ask questions from a different lens that maybe they wouldn't think about. So if I'm in education, it gives me a chance to say, well, here's what agents might experience, or here's what customers might experience. And I know that because I dealt with it. Or, I had a chance to shadow or whatever it is. And so it gives me a different lens. I think in one role, like my facilities role and that leadership role, certainly I couldn't draw on expertise of my own because I didn't have any. So I had to rely on my leadership and kind of asking good questions. And then hopefully could use some of my sales background to help them influence change more greatly.
Right,
So
right.
all those different levers and pulling them together and creating a broader picture for those I'm working with most closely. Hopefully it works.
Yeah, definitely. It's a different perspective, right? So by bringing in that different perspective of different areas of the business, you're able to really utilize your team and just really have that kind of 360 view of it all.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Well
what's been the
summarized.
hardest? What's that?
Well summarized.
Yeah, right. So what's been the hardest part of leadership?
Well, the hardest part is always saying goodbye to the team I'm working with, because I've been really lucky that I've loved every team that I've been a part of. So that's a hard transition. And to the work, I get really committed to the roadmap or the vision of the team I'm working with. And then to say goodbye and kind of have to move on is hard. The good piece is I never really have to say goodbye, at least in my work, because I've been staying with the same company. And so I can still draw on those prior relationships.
Yeah, I think when you talk about, so the whole title of this series is Your Leadership Legacy. And one of the things that I admire most about you, when you talk about like leaving a legacy, no matter where you've left that legacy there after you've gone. And so that people part of what you were just talking about and the relationships and all that kind of stuff, that's kind of been something that's followed you throughout your whole leadership journey, and it served you really, really well. How is, from that heart perspective, right? So like really kind of coming in the heart and the relationships and stuff like that. Why, when you talk about leaving a leadership legacy, why is that so important?
Well, to me, that's why I go to work every day, right? I mean, everybody, certainly we want the business to do well, but and that's a necessary thing for our customers for sure. So I don't want to minimize that, but everybody who comes to work, they're coming to work because something that's really important to them or someone that's really important to them. And for me to be able to help shape their future or to empower them so that they can do better and their lives and their families are better off, I mean, that's just a really powerful opportunity that I wouldn't want to minimize. So that's what's important to me. Ultimately, what fires me up to come to work every day is helping shape their lives for the better.
Right. That's amazing. How have you seen that change over time? So how have you seen leadership in general change over time?
Well, I'll start with an example probably of what I think I didn't do well in the beginning in my first leadership role. And I think what opportunities are there now more than maybe they were in the past, or maybe it's just me getting older and feeling more comfortable. So in my first leadership role, it was in a geographic move for my family and I, and as well as everybody else's at the time. So a startup state. And I was the only female. So I'm a kind of play to that a little bit. And it was an awesome team and I learned an incredible amount, but what I don't think I did well, and the voice I lost, and maybe it's kind of hindsight, I think what I didn't do well is carry my female perspective forward. I became a new mom in that role, and I certainly came from a perspective of a female, and having gone through certain experiences the other leaders wouldn't have. And I tended to become one of the guys. And that was easy to fit in, more easy, it just was easier. And I should have probably carried that voice more strongly, because I think that's my accountability.
Yeah. So why does that happen? Why do you think that happens? Because I can so relate.
Yeah. I think at the time it was just lack of confidence, and I didn't, I didn't think about it that way. I was so excited to be a manager or a leader, and I wanted to please. My goal was to please my boss. My goal was to do well and whatever that was. And he certainly wasn't pushing me in one direction or the other, but I was just kind of running down that path where everybody else was, and just didn't think about it in that regard. And now as I get older, that's so much more important to me personally, to make sure that part of me is heard.
Yeah, definitely. I can so relate. And I don't even think, like for me, I didn't even realize it was happening when we were doing it, right? Because when you have a majority of people saying, if you want to be successful, do this, act like this, say this, don't say that, right? You kind of, you pick that up because you want to be successful.
Yes.
But then you kind of look back and go, oh, I wasn't really being me and I wasn't using my voice.
Yes.
So what advice do you have for women out there, whether they're striving to go into leadership or maybe they're a leader now and they're struggling with some of this stuff? Like, what advice do you have for them to help them use their voice?
I think it would be, as a woman, I would have loved to have heard, even before I became a leader, I would have loved to have heard leaders talking about the challenges of being a female, being a mom, being whatever that lens is, and how to fit it in, and making it a safe place. So if I'm a female leader today, I want to make sure my employees, whether they're men or women, know that I have struggles and I have challenges, and they could be different than what other people are going through. And so I think it's a matter of being real and being maybe being a little vulnerable. And sometimes those play out because I am a mom and I don't want to miss out on certain things that, and I do have challenges that are real.
Yeah.
And saying them out loud, sometimes maybe it's not always because I'm female, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
It makes their world more real, and it makes it okay for them to talk about what they're going through as well.
Yeah. And I think society, like I know for me, when I would say that, I would feel weak, or I would feel, I'd have all these feelings that would kind of come with it, because we don't make it okay to be vulnerable. We don't make it okay to share our feelings. And some of the best leaders I know, and you're one of them, are leaders who are just super real, and they're vulnerable, and they say, hey, I don't have all of this. I do struggle. I struggle just like everybody else. And so when I look at like the future of leadership and the future of work and kind of where we're going with all of that, what are your thoughts on leaders like this, like we have to flex this vulnerability thing? What are your thoughts on that?
Do it.
Yeah.
You okay with it? And it isn't about creating excuses. It isn't a reason to not get your job done, but it is to say, today, I might need to do something a little different. I might need to do this, or please understand what I'm bringing to work today. We all have those challenges, right? And the reason I think it's cool to say that, or it should be okay to say that, is because others want to help you. We are a team. We are a team, and we are strongest when we can support each other, and we can't support each other if we're not aware of what we're going through.
Yeah, and the thing is that we're all going through something. We probably are all going through something, but we try so hard to like mask that because we don't want to appear weak or not confident or anything like that. So it's really cool that kind of as we move into this new form of leadership and being okay with being vulnerable and stuff like that, I think that, the more we can be vulnerable as leaders, the more we work together as a team.
Right. And we'll be stronger as a team.
Yeah, right. I think about kind of our past, and it's all, for me in my history and my career, it's always been about individual accountability. It's all, very individual. When I had my business running an agency, it was my accountability. When I was a district manager, that district was my accountability. So we're so used to having this individual accountability, and now it's more about teams. And how do we work in a team, and how do we bring everybody in and know that we all have our own voice, and that our voice matters and can create like this better outcome.
Right. Right on.
How has that shown up for you in your leadership?
I think by example. So can I share an example from my past when I could have done better at it and I had a leader call me on it?
Please, yes.
So my background, I had a leadership role in a Western state and then moved back to a more veteran state within our company. And I assumed I got that role because I knew what I was doing. And so I did not lean on my leader. I just went about doing my business, and he would call and say, hey, how's it going? And of course I would just, probably be overwhelmed at the time, but say, oh, it's going great. I got it under control. Yeah. Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
And after a couple of those calls, on one call, he finally said, it'd be okay if you asked me some questions. And so what he was saying is he didn't expect me to know everything. He didn't expect me to have all the answers. And I think I was actually kind of hurting him by not leaning on his expertise, because he had a lot more years in the business than I did.
Yeah.
And he had information to share that could have helped cut my learning curve.
Yeah.
he made it okay. He had to call me out on it, which is kind of a shame. But I have shared that example a bunch of times, and I ask that my team and I ask my peers, or I'm not perfect at it, but I try to say, what can I do to help you, and make it okay if they're asking questions. And if I don't have the answers, then hopefully I can at least direct them to, or surround them by resources of people who do.
Sure, you bet. Isn't it crazy how like a lot of conflict that we deal with, a lot of the things that we really struggle with both personally and professionally, it's just a communication thing?
Yes.
It's just communication.
Right. Wouldn't it be cool if you just said, I'm struggling with this, can you help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
I know but for me, it was like I had all these masks on because I didn't want anybody to know I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want anybody to know that I didn't have that answer, that I was uncomfortable with that. And so we try and put all these masks on, and we fall in the end because we can't do it all on our own. Right. So what's been the best part of leadership for you? What have you loved the absolute most?
Seeing people succeed in a role where they probably thought they were not quite ready in the beginning, making sure that they have the right resources, and then drawing that success back to what's really important to them, which is probably a family goal or a family development or meeting a person, things like that. We all come to work and work hard and want to do well, but we all have motivation that is far beyond the walls of our employer's place.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing, to see families grow up and to say, I got to send somebody to college because of a career opportunity that maybe I helped influence in a positive way at some point. That's the coolest thing. And I've been around long enough to see that happen.
Yeah, right.
Kids be born and go off to college. Okay, let's face it, I'm getting old.
When you were at the birth and the graduation, you've been around a while. Right?
Yes. I know I don't look it.
You look amazing. So part of the inspiration for this online series has been that like our world has changed. The world itself is moving faster and faster and faster. And you just mentioned how like our personal and our professional lives are really just starting to kind of cry. It's hard to see the difference anymore. They're just so connected 24/7. Everything's moving fast. Change is happening constantly. So that was really the inspiration for this show, because we've led one way forever and ever. And now as things start getting, busier and busier and busier as leaders, if we're not taking care of ourselves and really tuning in to managing all of that crazy, that's kind of when we get into burnout.
All that crazy. Okay, got it.
All that crazy. Yeah. Because if you think about it, we got information coming at us from every direction, right? Emails and social media and, all over the place. There's just information all the time coming at us. So when you think about that, as a leader with a team that you're trying to, keep motivated and keep moving and keep results sustainable and all that kind of stuff, how do you build a framework within your team, or how do you really stay on top of creating like an unstoppable team that they're on all gears and they're moving forward? What do you do on a daily basis to make sure you're kind of keeping that in tune?
Oh, man, I wish I had just 3 quick bullet points to share with you. I think half the challenge with the crazy that goes on with information everywhere is as much about shutting the crazy off for my team and telling them, you need to go home. You need to have downtime. You need to be away from work so that when you're at work and you're focused on what's going on at work, and sometimes that's not physically at work, right? Yet you can do it. You have to have balance. And sometimes that isn't always, it's not always there, but I don't want them to be on all the time. And it would be so easy to with the crazy. But so that's as much of my challenge, is to help them find balance and be able to turn it off. And I try to do that by example, but I don't always sleep good. So sometimes I'm on emails late at night, right? We all are. I always ask them about their personal lives. I always ask them about what they did on the weekend, not to serve as a distraction, but to make sure that they are keeping balance. Because then when they have that rest time and can let their brain kind of settle, when they are working, it's much more productive, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. And that's such a change, isn't it? From kind of how it has been in the past.
Right.
In the past, it was like you almost I've started out some of my keynotes that I used to wear busy on my forehead like it was some kind of a badge of honor, right? We used to like celebrate busy and be proud that, oh, we only got 3 hours of sleep last night. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's changed. It's just not like that anymore. If we don't keep that life balance, then that's when the burnout comes
Exactly.
and all
Exactly.
that and all that. So
We're
what would
perfect
you,
at it, but we can keep working at it, right?
exactly. It is. It's kind of a constant evolution of trying to, just when I know for me, just when I start feeling like, okay, I'm caught up, then all of a sudden a bunch of stuff comes in and now, you know, so you're kind of constantly in this mode of trying to stay caught up. And if you don't make that intentional time to just say, no, I'm going to take a down day today, then there's no way to
Yes.
recharge.
Yes, making that okay. And then still holding them accountable to whatever goals and expectations they have. But let's figure out how to make that a manageable allotment of your life.
Yeah, which is amazing. I know in the past, when I have a leader that communicates that to me and I understand that that's where the leader is from, it just takes a lot of pressure off, knowing that you don't have to be on that on that hamster wheel constantly trying to make it happen.
Right. I think
So there are,
can I add one more piece to that?
Yeah.
I think the other thing is always trying to be a safe place for them to share, whether that's something personal or something work related that they're struggling with, so that I can help them find resources in either environment.
right. Yeah. So important. And it's also important that they feel comfortable coming to you, right? To be able to ask those questions and do that.
Right.
So we have a couple of different people probably watching this show. We have people who are maybe don't have a title as a leader, but they're leading their life personally. They're leading their life in their professional world, and maybe they want to strive for that title. And then we have people who are maybe leaders today. They have a title, and maybe they're feeling some of that burnout. They're feeling some of the stuff that we just talked about. So I kind of want to close this with if you could give one piece of advice to either one of those, listeners, in regards to leaving a leadership legacy, making sure that you're being the best possible leader that you can be, what would that advice be from you, Betty?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to quite one, but I was thinking about that. So I'll give you as much of a summary as I'm capable of.
Okay.
I think it's, as much about IQ in your business as it is about EQ. And are you aware of how you're impacting others? And that's being open. So are you open to receiving information? And that it comes in a lot of different forms, and sometimes it's a little easier to take than others, but always be open to that. And then I would say asking questions. So are you staying current with things? Are you asking your team or the people that you influence how things are going, so that you're aware of what's up in their world and how they see things? So I think that EQ piece of it is so often overlooked that it just becomes like a checklist process, and it's way more than that. So it's the EQ piece of it that I think is really the finesse, but ultimately helps leaders thrive.
Yeah, so EQ, so go a little bit further. Give me an example of what an EQ, like what does that look like in action? Like what is a good example of that in action?
So any leader, right? Knowing what kind of is on the shoulders of a person who's coming to work that day. I've had people who I think are humming along really well, and then you get them in a room with the door closed and they start talking and they're struggling with something, whether it's as a leader at work or whether it's something at home that is a rightful distraction. And so until you're aware of that and can ask the right questions to get them through that, I think that will be a block to being productive at work. I don't know if that's good.
Well, I think that's the challenge, right? Because if we're dealing with something at home, we bring it into work. If we're dealing with something at work, we take it home. And so that's that kind of meshing of our two worlds.
Yes.
That we really have to have tools and techniques and processes and all that kind of stuff to really be very intentional to manage that. What kind of tools do you use to manage that?
I read a ton, and
Awesome.
I try to be very good at asking questions and assuming good intent. So can I share a quick story about where those worlds meshed?
Yes, please.
It's more embarrassing. My husband would kill me. So you're familiar with, can I reference a specific book?
Yeah, totally.
So a book that I valued greatly after I read it was Crucial Conversations.
Yeah.
So I thought that there might be room for conversation flow at home. So at the beginning of 2018, I bought a copy of that book for my entire family, for my 2 boys. I have teenage boys, and my husband, and said, "Hey, this is our read for 2018." You know, they might not have been totally receptive to it, but in the end, I got my point across that we have to be able to have conversations that assume good intent. And hey, everybody has issues. We didn't have anything going on totally, but teenage boys, come on, that's not always easy. So I was looking for a way to have a healthier conversation. And this book gave me a reason to say, I see room for improvement, and then make it fun. So I will call that out with them still. So this is how our worlds mesh, right?
I love that.
Yeah. Anyway.
That book is actually what started my whole transformation.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I read that.
Still reference it. I think it's very valuable. Everybody can kind of understand. Assume good intent always, right?
Positive intent. I mean, I was like reading that book going, oh, I'm the issue. Oh, this is me, I guess.
I may be making up a story before I know the facts.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's helped a lot. So my husband would ask me, have you read the book? Have you read the book? And we finally read it together, and it made an amazing difference in our marriage too.
That's so cool.
I love that you're doing that with your boys. That's awesome.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah. All right. So do you have anything else, Betty, from a leadership perspective, or, leaving a leadership legacy, building leaders of leaders, all that kind of stuff? Anything that we haven't talked about that you want to mention or talk about?
I don't think so. I just appreciate the opportunity to share and have a conversation with you, Tina, always.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to learning from others who are a part of this series.
Yeah, I'm really excited. The lineup that we have is crazy. And so every day, everybody's going to get one interview in their inbox to just listen to. And it's a free online series to help people just develop their leadership skills, both personally and professionally. So I'm very excited about it.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for being a servant leader, Betty. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you for being a role model for not only women, but men too. Like I said, I've watched you for lots of years, and you're one of the best. And I just really appreciate you taking your time to do this interview.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Sounds good, my dear. I will thank you and let you go and be on with your day. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
You bet. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
My name is Tina Paulus-Kraus, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.